Hello, we're going to cover the Cornell note-taking that is required for this project, how to format it, reasons why one would do Cornell note-taking, and how it applies to the project. Alright, so just a few facts. Why should we even take notes? Notes are a record of your learning, so take them when you listen to a lecture, you read a text, you work in groups with activities, or you need to recall information. It also helps you to minimize your rate of forgetting. So, for instance, Dr. Walter Palk indicated that if you don't take notes, you forget 60% of the information that you've heard. In 14 days, if you do take some notes, you remember about 60%. If you take organized notes and do something with them, like creating Cornell notes, you remember 90 to 100% indefinitely. That means forever. So that's pretty impressive, right? So Dr. Palk created the Cornell note-taking system, and this Cornell note-taking system is typically where you would place the date, the topic, and the basic information of the notes that you're taking, and then you would, in the next column, reflect upon that information, apply that information, remind you of why you took the notes on that information, and then at the bottom you would summarize in as, kind of layman's terms as possible what all this information is and what it's used for. Alright, so the difference between regular note-taking and Cornell note-taking is that with Cornell note-taking, you divide your notes into two parts, questions and notes. The second is that you reflect upon the information that you've recorded. And this is really important, especially when writing the literature review and trying to connect multiple sources together. If you reflect upon, why did I choose this piece of information? What will it allow me to do? Where would I place this information in my literature review? Does this remind me of other information that I have come across? And if so, specifically how? How might I use this information and other information that I found that's similar together as a synthesis of information? And there's room for a topic that you can place within your Cornell notes, so that, for instance, in a literature review, you might have a lot of subtopics where you start out with a broad research question and then move into the subtopics of that research or questions of that research, and so each note can be connected to a certain topic or theme, right? The types of questions that you should place on the left side of your Cornell note-taking would be questions which are answered in the notes on the right-hand side. Questions you still need to answer, so you might need to ask a friend, somebody in the profession, your teacher, a tutor at the right zone. So these may be questions that you already have the answer to, questions that you do not have the answer to, questions that the teacher, if you're taking math or science or something like that, might answer in a question, or these might be questions that you have for me as a teacher to remind yourself while reading something, or oh, this kind of reminds me of this other source, but I'm not really sure how to combine them together. I should ask my professor how to do that. And higher level thinking questions. What does this make me think about? What does all this information really mean? Those are really important, especially for literature reviews and when you're trying to analyze and synthesize sources. Other things you could place on the left side of your column would be key terms. I highly suggest you do this. We need to place key terms into our literature review and define them for the reader. Vocabulary, again, if you keep seeing the same words or terms cropping up over and over again, this is a good indication that this is something that needs to be addressed in your literature review and is probably one of the main themes of this research. Dates or words that keep cropping up or seem important. You could hypothetically put diagrams or figures that you found from your articles that you might use to visually represent information that you're trying to present to the reader. Maybe references that you found from other sources you might want to look up. So, for instance, you're reading an article and they reference a certain individual and it's their work, and you think, this sounds like something I should check out. You could put that up. Notes to yourself, actions you need to take. You might say, okay, I only have this one source that covers this particular topic or idea. I need to find more like this. What are some good tips for taking notes on the right? This is the right column of the Cornell notes. Write only what is most important. So this means that this is where you're kind of responding to or reflecting to. So you might want to answer the questions that you've posed to yourself. Make sure that you look for the types of clues of organization or gestures towards similar information so that you can say, this source, based on kind of my reflection of this source, reminds me of other sources, or provides me with needed information that I need to find more of. Or you might want to look for material that I've provided for you as an instructor or given to you in a visual kind of video or something like that that relates to this source that you've seen, or maybe reflecting upon, how I would use this source or synthesize it in my literature review based on what my instructor is asking me to do. Some other good tips: write in your own words, so paraphrase. This is where you need to take maybe the quotes that you've pulled from the text and placed in the left column and paraphrase those quotes, because remember, in a literature review we do not use direct quotes, and so if you begin paraphrasing the information you've pulled from your research articles here in the Cornell note-taking system, you're steps ahead than if you go to sit down and write the literature review and all you have are all these quotes, right? Maybe use abbreviations that you create yourself, or that you know of, so that you can kind of do this rather quickly. Sometimes you could draw a figure or a diagram. Some people are visual, so you're representing this information in a different way than just in the written text that you've pulled as a quote. Maybe leave some space because you might need to fill in information later, or you might think about something while you're working out or at work or whatever it may be and be like, oh, I really should add this to that section. You could use bullets, arrows. This isn't meant to be something where it should take you hours and hours. This is meant to be useful for you and something that you can quickly access and remind yourself about the information that you found and how you're going to use it. Alright, so what are the steps to taking Cornell's? You need to set up your page. You can use this either just in a basic, initially where you write it down on a sheet of paper. You could make columns in a Word document. You could do some type of Excel spreadsheet, whatever it is that you want. Make sure that you have margins, you've labeled each section clearly. Make sure that you actually do take the notes, and that you do something with them, review them, revise them, and reflect upon them. And again, maybe even consider color coding certain sections of your notes based on reoccurring definitions or themes or ideas, and do that for each Cornell note that you've done, and so that you can start to begin to see the crossover between sources. You might see that 3 to 5 of your sources all define a certain topic in a similar way. That's great. That means you can use all of those sources together when defining that topic instead of just using one source. Remember, literature reviews are the synthesis and analysis of sources, meaning you use multiple sources together to make points, to provide information, to make claims, these kinds of things. Again, if you have any questions about the Cornell note-taking system, certainly there's an example of the template on after the Blackboard project folder as well as a student example of the Cornell note-taking system, you certainly can email me with questions that you may have. I read these so you can place questions into your Cornell notes for me, maybe putting them in a different color so that it stands out to me and I can respond to that question. These are for you and for me, so make sure that you remember that as well. Thanks.